Never really thought about that.
I think I would do like 7 months of fall, 3 months of winter, and then 1 of spring, 1 of summer. Just give me 2 months spring, summer, then right back to fall and winter.
Okay, fascinating. I do love fall. It's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, but it's nice that we have the variety. I absolutely love the variety of seasons. For our friends who are like in the South who don't have that much variety, I mean, there's some good things to be said for consistency, but I really do like.
I mean, Christmas in San Diego isn't really Christmas. Let's face it.
Some people beg to differ, but it's great. I love snowmen. But I don't like tons of winter. That's just me. But I just love it regardless. A day that the Lord has made is always a good one.
Amen.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what else is going on at Orchard Hills Bible Church? Anything new and exciting there?
No.
Always exciting, never new, right?
Yeah. No, we're just we're finishing up 2 Corinthians, going through that on Sunday mornings, which is my favorite New Testament book. So I've been having a blast, even if no one else is.
And you've been going through it for a while too.
Yeah,
because we air your sermons on Key Radio, and we've been in 2 Corinthians for quite a while.
At the end, it'll be almost exactly 52 sermons, I think.
Okay.
So really close to that. So 2 Corinthians in 1 year.
Fantastic.
But yeah, we've got all kinds of Bible studies going on throughout the week. On Wednesday nights, we've been talking about angels and demons.
Wow.
So been doing a study on that. All kinds of cool Bible study things. We have all kinds of fun things too, like the ladies are going on a retreat this weekend. So fall's a good time for women's retreats.
Yep.
Yeah.
And personally too, I mean, you have other ministries other than Orchard Hills Bible Church as well. So I know you've got Do Theology. How's that going?
Going really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just yesterday released, day before yesterday, an interview that I did with Nahum O'Brien.
Oh, wow.
There's a name you won't ever hear again. Nahum O'Brien.
Unless you read your Bible.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Not the O'Brien part. The prophet Nahum did not have the luck of the Irish.
That's awesome.
But it was a very interesting guy. It's a little over 2-hour interview. But
wow.
Iraq war veteran, missionary to Norway, cancer fighter, just an amazing story.
Wow.
So
wow.
we explored all those things.
Okay.
So yeah, been doing that, and then also through the church's ministry, like you would see this on our church's YouTube channel or on Facebook. I have an outreach that I go through the Bible for our LDS community. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is going through the New Testament this year. Last year was Old Testament, this year New Testament, and they have a schedule for that for their Sunday school class. And so I go look at the schedule and see, okay, this week they're talking about, Philippians or whatever, and then I'll throw out a 30-minute-ish episode talking about the book of Philippians if anyone's curious to hear a Bible church pastor's perspective on that passage. And I did it all last year for the Old Testament. I've done it all this year for the New Testament. So we're coming to the end of this. But at the end, it's over 100 episodes.
Wow.
So it's a lot of work, and I'll be happy to be completed.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. It's been
so
a good
is
time.
this kind of like a survey of each book then? Because I mean, to do a 30-minute overview of any book of the Bible is, I mean, like you just said, 52 sermons on 2 Corinthians alone.
Yeah.
So this is
I thought about that, but what I decided to do was actually pick a passage within each book, because for the week it will say just Philippians, and sometimes it'll say 2 books.
Oh wow.
Like it'll say Philippians and Colossians. I think actually that's what it was this last week, those 2 together. And even doing an overview of those 2 books would take a long time. So what I do is like this. So this last week I picked Philippians 3, one of my favorite passages in the Bible, and just talked about a particular section within that particular book. And hopefully it helps some people.
Fantastic. So if you want that perspective, you could just go to the Orchard Hills Bible Church website and Facebook page?
Yeah, Facebook page, YouTube, website. You'll find it through any of those channels.
Okay. And then Do Theology, how would we find that?
Just really easy. Just tech.com to the end of that. DoTheology.com. Yeah.
Easy peasy. Thanks for making that easy for all of us.
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic. Well, friend, I do want to let you know that there are a few things going on in your neck of the woods, and I was remiss. This weekend, Sunday, over at Vernal Christian Church. There is a missions emphasis going on, and so you don't want to miss that. That will be wonderful. I believe the times are 8:30 and 10:30 that you'll want to be there. So just it's going to be great. Guess what? I'm going to be there. Okay. And then also, just to give you some updates, the annual fall banquet for the Castle Country Pregnancy Resource Center in Price. They're going to have their annual fall banquet. That's going to happen on Saturday, October 28th from 6 to 8 o'clock p.m. This is a free event. But you know what, friend? They're doing great ministry work over there. So be very generous. Open your wallet and give freely to them. They just do great work. The reason why I bring it up, though, is you have to RSVP by October 18th because otherwise they're not going to know how to accommodate everybody who's going to attend. So please go ahead and do that. Also, Friday, October 20th and Saturday, October 21st, there is going to be an equipping weekend that is sponsored by Christ Fellowship Church of American Fork. And they are going to be, the emphasis is going to be on biblical counseling. It's going to be fantastic. They usually have some really great events. This one, the location, though, however, make sure you note this, is going to be at First Baptist Church in Provo, right on Columbia Lane. And if you want more information about any of the stuff, of course, you should text us or email us. And then also there is going to be a ministry conference over at Fellowship Bible Church in Linden. This is going to be hosted by Village Missions as part of their goal to help churches thrive. There is a registration fee. For more information, you should contact us as well. AV Calvary in Vernal is also having a harvest party on October 31st. Free entry to that. Oh, and then okay, back up a little bit or go forward a little bit. October 13th, don't forget this. The UBCA is having a fall concert.
Today.
Oh, it is today. That's tonight at 5:30 p.m. Oh, my goodness. October has been flying.
Welcome to fall.
Oh, I'm so tired already. Okay.
That's why we need 7 months of fall.
That's right. I guess you're right, Jeremy. Don't miss this. Don't miss this. 5:30 p.m. tonight at the Library Park in Vernal. There is going to be a fall concert. Join them for a time of fun and fellowship. They will have food trucks, yard games, and a time of worship. That is going to be absolutely fun. Don't miss it. Oh, my goodness.
Woo.
There you go.
Fall's a crazy time.
It is.
Every year this happens, and I should see it coming, but I don't. Where it's like, okay, things get really busy in the fall, and you go into wintertime. After the holidays, things start to slow down. January and February, it's slow. And then spring starts to get busy again.
Yep.
And then you go into summer, and it's like a different kind of busy, but it's actually slow. And you know that because fall hits you like a ton of bricks. And it's like, especially, I guess when you have kids, especially at home. School starts.
Sports starts.
I mean,
every club starts.
Last night was the first Thursday night that we had free since the end of July or the beginning of August because soccer and then flag football with kids.
Yeah.
And there's piano lessons, violin lessons, all kinds of special events with church. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely crazy. And if you're not careful, you're going to have no time for anything because you're going to be so busy being busy.
Yeah, that's it. And no time for friendship.
That was where I was going to go.
Oh, wow.
That's so funny that you say that because
My goodness. Do we plan these?
we are talking about God's way, God's wisdom for navigating life. And the resource that I am using and the inspiration for these discussions is a small little devotional book that is it's like a Bible study. I was kind of surprised by it. I didn't mean to buy it. I just happened to buy it. I don't know how those things work. If you are a book person, you kind of know how that works. But anyway, written by Timothy Keller and his wife, Kathy, a year of daily devotions in the book of Proverbs, but he goes into Ecclesiastes and so on and so forth. But this particular day, we're going to be talking about God's wisdom, navigating life, but friendship. Do you have friends? What is friendship? Like, oh my, I mean, I don't think that friendship is the same as it was, let's say, back 100 years ago, or maybe even 200 years ago, where you didn't have all the busyness of technology. You had spent a lot of time at home. When it got dark, you went to bed. Right? You didn't want to burn too much of your candle, those kinds of things. And nowadays, it's just a rat race from like sun up to sundown. And then when the sun's down, it's still a rat race. And then you're like, oh, I have to go to bed and get up in 5 hours. It's a crazy, crazy time. Do you have time for friends? What is a friend? What's the main goal of having a friend? Am I a good friend? what does God say about friendship? How far do I get the friends, allow them in my life? Or are they just a distraction as well as anything else? So we're going to talk about all of this. Is that
All of
okay?
it.
So
Yeah.
definition, really,
Yes.
what is friendship? I mean, and can we use the Bible to help us define this?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
all of it.
So I think the first distinction to make is a friend is not a neighbor. A friend is more than a neighbor.
Okay.
So the Bible does give us these categories. You got family, so you mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter, all that. You have family. You have brother in. I know it's a family term, but used for not your blood kin. So you have that comes up in Proverbs and many other places. You have neighbor that shows up. You have stranger that shows up in a lot of places. So you kind of have these categories of relationship that are put out there, and even you got like the nations or the ends of the earth, people that aren't even strangers to you because you don't know who they are, but you know that there are more people out there. Okay, and so a friend is actually more than a neighbor, but they're very similar, and your neighbor might be your friend, but so all friends are neighbors, but not all neighbors are friends. If I could word it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I need a Venn diagram or something.
So we have these people in our lives that we come into contact with. They have influence over us, or we have influence over them. And at that level, those are our neighbors. I mean, those are people that God has crossed our paths. But then we have those who we've developed a deep relationship with in some sense, where we're sharing life at some level. More than just we know each other's names and we know more than just a little bit of factual information about each other, but we're opening up to one another and we consider one another's counsel to be valuable and their presence to be valuable. When that happens, you move from neighbor now, a neighbor relationship to a friendship. And if that person is in Christ, if that person now is a believer in Jesus as you are, then you're brothers or sisters in the Lord too. Or brother, sister. And so these deep relationships are very, very precious and very important.
Now, deep relationships, that word deep, we don't often think about deep relationships when we think about friends. In our culture today, we like to gather friends. We like to collect them like you can't.
Like Pokemon.
I was just going to say that. It's like we have kids or
I
something.
keep robbing you
Thanks a lot, man.
of your terms.
We're simpatico.
Well,
No,
yes, exactly. I actually brought a list of 10 things I think a friend is. And the first thing is actually the only negative on the list, which is a friend is not a name on Facebook.
I think we could just stop right there, right? Because many of us consider that. But I just kind of wonder how many of those so-called Facebook friends do we actually think about during the day?
Right. Yeah. So a real friend is not just a name or a digital presence, but a real life human being made in the image of God who cares about you and you care about that person. You are in real life together, sharing real life issues together. So it's really a shame that we allowed Facebook to hijack the term friends.
Right, exactly.
Like they could have said contacts, they could have said all kinds of things, but they chose friends. And yeah, I mean, you go to your profile, you scroll down, you see your little list. Ooh, I've got 1,000 friends. You know, no, you don't.
You can't maintain friendships like that.
Exactly.
And that, I guess, is the other thing, too. I mean, if there's a deep relationship, what this is calling for is an investment, a life investment. Oh, that's one of your, I'm getting ahead of
Now
ourselves.
you're taking my term.
Sorry.
No. That was in the definition of the first thing.
Okay.
Not a name on Facebook, but a real person invested in your life. Yes, that's
Okay.
it. Because like, again, Facebook, I mean, we could use Twitter or Instagram, we could use whatever, any kind of digital social media that there is. I think that's a misnomer too. I don't think it's really that social. But I've got contacts. I've never met these people before. Like I get a lot of friend requests and I'll examine the person's profile a little bit and see, okay, do we have, 50 or more mutual friends, yada, yada, yada. But a lot of times I don't know the person. That person's found me online from somewhere. And now Facebook declares we're friends. But that person's not invested in my life. I'm not invested in that person's life. We're I guess hardly acquaintances. You could say that maybe.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's not what a friend is. A friend is a real life person that you know, and there's a mutual investment in each other's lives.
Okay. So having known that, you can't really have a lot of people in a friend's circle.
No, we are so limited.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, like even in a church context, right? Where maybe your context is there's like 10 of you, and that's a little bit, you could be friends with 10 people. I think that is very reasonable. But if you are in a church family that has, let's say, over 200 people, I think that's stretching our
Oh.
capabilities a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I know that's not a popular thing to say.
Yeah, but it's the reality. I mean, if we want to have friendship be meaningful, it has to be limited. We can make it unlimited, but then it loses all meaning and all purpose. Like Facebook. Yeah, sure, I've got 2,000 friends or whatever. No, I mean, well, okay, now friendship means nothing.
Right.
So if it's going to mean something, and again, I've got 9 other points that will start to define this. If it's going to mean something, then it will by necessity have to be limited because you are limited.
Okay. Let's go down your list. Let's do this. I
Okay.
want to make sure we spend enough time, and then if you don't have any of my questions answered, I'll pepper you with them at the
Well,
end.
I do have Proverbs to join with them, mostly Proverbs. I have some other stuff too, but one of the most famous Proverbs, I think, goes with that first point, and that kind of sets the stage for the rest of this. Proverbs 18:24, a man of too many friends comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. That's more than a name on Facebook, right?
Yes.
That's more than a digital acquaintance. Someone who sticks closer than a brother. We're talking about real life people with mutual investment. A second point is a friend has your phone number and actually calls you. All right. So we were just talking.
Is this biblical? I didn't see that passage in here.
We were just talking before we went on the air about how phones, there's so many distractions that come through our phones.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in our context, our phones, like the last thing so many of us want to use our phones for is actually talking to people,
Right.
which is,
I don't even know why we call them phones anymore.
yes, it's
Yeah.
extremely ironic. We should come up with another name.
Yeah.
Because it's like some people have a true fear of having to talk on the thing that they spend so much time on. And what really they're used for is just like, I don't know, self-worship usually.
Wow.
A friend, though, is someone, again, thinking of our modern age, who is like thinking of you and wants to know what's going on in your life. So whether that's a phone call or stopping by your house, whatever the case may be, you get the point. Like a friend is someone who's actually willing to spend time with you because that person cares about you and wants to know what's going on. That's a true friend. We are scared of friendship in a lot of ways in our culture today. But Proverbs 27, verse 9, speaks to this point when it says, oil and incense make the heart glad, so counsel from the soul is sweet to his friend. A friend who wants your counsel, so he calls on you, or a friend who's there to give you godly, good counsel, it should be sweet to you, right? Whether that happens over the phone, whether that happens in person, but someone who actually cares enough about you to want to spend time with you and actually talk to you, not just surface level text, hey, how you doing? But like, I want to hear you, share from your soul.
That's a vulnerability, number one, that a lot of people are afraid of.
Yep.
Right. And number two, I don't know, and maybe this is more telling about me, but if I've got an issue or something that I'm mulling over, through great prayer, a lot of times I think of going to a friend for advice last.
Oh, really?
Which is a weird
That's
thing, but
interesting.
because usually it's like, okay, I'll go online and research. I'll just research it until I'm blue in the face before I
Yeah.
actually go to somebody and say, "What do you think about this?" And I just I can't be the only one who does that.
And there can be some true wisdom in that, especially if you don't have anybody who you think can provide any wisdom on the issue. But we should never forget Ecclesiastes. That there's strength in many counselors.
Yep.
A strand of 3 cords is not easily broken. That sort of thing. But there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors we get from Solomon. And so, friendship's a blessing.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making here isn't so much like your pursuit of people for advice, but just caring for one another humanely. We treat each other because so much of our view of other people has just been reduced down to a name on a screen, a digital not even presence. It's like a digital something. We don't care for each other in a humane way anymore. I mean, you look at the debates and stuff that go on online and the way people talk about each other. It's like, if you were in the same room together, would you talk about each other that way? Of course not. There's the humaneness has gone. And so someone who cares for you as an image bearer of God and wants to care for your soul is a true friend.
So well said. So well said. Okay, next point. Let's keep going.
A friend tells you when you have a booger.
Well, I must be the best friend ever. I'm always pointing that out. Mostly because it disgusts me. It's self-serving.
Well, just a few verses earlier in Proverbs 27, Proverbs 27:6 says, "Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but deceitful are the kisses of an enemy." So a friend tells you the things you don't want to hear, but the things you need to hear.
Yeah.
That's the point.
You know, go ahead,
that's
Grant.
not nice.
It isn't nice.
But there's something greater than just being nice, and that's what's really called for in friendship is kindness, is love. Love is more than just being nice. Nice is just making it so that there are no problems ever. And the only way we can do that is to ignore conflict.
Yeah, that's right. Or be in heaven.
Yeah, but that would be the only way there would be no
Yeah,
conflict.
right.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
The only other way is to ignore it, and that's nice.
And things
Don't
tend
be
to
nice.
fester that way and then eventually blow up.
I think back to grade school years. I think kids, at least when I was a kid, I feel like that was good friendship time right there.
Yes.
In fact, I still have, I've got a number of girlfriends that I still, they're close friends of mine because we grew up together and told each other about the boogers and weren't afraid to get in each other's grill. And I remember a time when all of us got together in a park, sat on one of it was a covered wagon. That's what it looked like. But it was like one of those jungle
old are
gym
you?
things. Stop. But
The year was
Is it-
1849.
That's when we
I
knew how to be
remember
friends.
because of the covered wagon.
Oh, stop it. See, this is why I talk too much anyway. But we would hash things out for hours and we would tell each other what we felt, how we were feeling. If somebody hurt our feelings, we would say, that hurt my feelings. I mean, and it wasn't like this big slugfest or anything, but we just aired out everything. Or if we were concerned about a friend, maybe she was dating a guy who wasn't really good for her, we would tell her. I mean, that's kind of the way it was. And nowadays we're like, oh, who am I? Who am I to tell you what to do? Who am I to step into this situation? You'll figure it out, right? It's just a fascinating thing.
Yeah. And on the other end of that, you have people who don't receive that as friendship. They get, and that's the way it's always been too. You'll have people who will get really bothered that you would care enough to confront them on something. But now they can go online and slander you and even slander you without mentioning your name, but people know that you're talking about somebody. I mean, it's just a really, really nasty world with more avenues to retaliate, which it gives us fear when it comes to confronting somebody.
But it is important to have the humility if you are on the receiving end. And if you know that person truly does care for you,
Yes.
then it is important that we receive that admonition or that concern
Yes.
and receive it with open arms. And to actually say, not only am I receiving it, it's not like you're taking a blow. It's like you're taking a hug, right?
Yes. And we have to view someone who loves us most is going to risk hurting our feelings rather than trying to protect our feelings and not tell us something we need to know. I could write that sentence, but much better if I could sit down on my keyboard and type it out. But someone who withholds information, like just truth, helpful wisdom, because they're afraid of hurting our feelings, actually doesn't love us as much as the person who's willing to go there and put your feelings second and put truth first. That person actually loves us more because that person recognizes we need truth.
Yeah, withholding information, that's a manipulation tactic. That's trying to just keep everyone liking you. That's like a form of control where you just always want to be perceived as being the nice, good friend. And it's like you're by withholding information, you're just trying to manipulate the people around you. You're not seeking their best interests.
It's political strategy is really what that is. So
Wow. Wow. We don't want to be a political strategy person. We want to be friends.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Right. Okay.
Number 4.
Take care of the boogers. Next one is.
Well, in conjunction with that, a friend knows when to shut up.
Okay.
So a friend tells you when you have a booger and then shuts up about it. But again, in Proverbs 27, since we're still here, verse 14, he who blesses his friend with a loud voice early in the morning, it will be counted as a curse to him. There's a time and place to have a loud voice.
Yes.
The context is important, right? And someone who early in the morning comes in with a loud voice and was singing, not a blessing.
I can't imagine someone doing that, Jeremy.
Uh-huh.
Coming in the morning with a loud voice.
Good morning, Utah.
Why are you looking at me like that, Grant?
Oh, like Jeremy did that earlier.
Yeah, right.
Remember earlier?
That's right.
Well, and it's not just the
I keep short accounts, which I'm sure
Amen.
is on his list.
And it's not just a loud voice, it's even singing. Proverbs 25:20, like one who takes off a garment on a cold day or like vinegar on soda is he who sings songs to an aching heart. So there's a time and place to be loud. There's a time and place to sing songs. There's a time and place to make jokes. There's a time and place to confront. There's tact with all of that. And a good friend knows how to shut up. I have seen multiple times, as we all have in my life, people who insist on their own way and are manipulative in the way that they keep talking about an issue and forcing somebody into something because that person is just trying to get his or her own way. And that's not love, and that isn't friendship. A true friend knows when to shut up.
And again, it goes back to that investment in time, right? You're not going to know the person. I mean, let's put it this way. If you don't know that person who you know that you call a friend, and you don't have that sensitivity to know when to be quiet and to know when to press into an issue, then you're no friend at all. And that does require, though, that you spend time with that person. And I would even say, can I just say, to pray for that person. I know that the Lord does something very special in my heart and softens my heart to a friend when I pray for her.
Yep, absolutely. And you think of like Job's friends.
Oh, yeah.
They would have done a better job praying more than talking in many of those instances, right?
Yes, yes. And if you are not familiar with the book of Job, you should read it. It's a really profound book about suffering, but there's so many nuggets of wisdom in that book. And it's about this man named Job who, as far as we know, never did really anything to deserve the suffering he did. And yet the Lord allowed suffering in this man's life. And the process, how he dealt with it, how his wife dealt with it, how his friends tried to console him in a weird sort of way, all of that. It's just fantastic. But at the end of it, the Lord is glorified. It's a tremendous book.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5.
Number 5. A friend knows your favorite comfort foods. Or you could say
I just love how you thought of all these things.
a friend knows your favorite flavor of ice cream, you could say. In Paul's life, he had friends show up at really helpful times. In Philippians chapter 4, Paul says to these believers in Philippi, I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived thinking about me. Indeed, you were thinking about me before, but you lacked opportunity. And he goes on to say how he's learned to live with little or with much. He can do all things through Christ who gives him strength. And he says, nevertheless, you have done well to fellowship with me in my afflictions. And you yourselves also know, Philippians, that at the first preaching of the gospel after I left Macedonia, no church fellowshiped with me in the matter of giving and receiving, but you alone. For even in Thessalonica, you sent a gift more than once for my needs. Not that I seek the gift itself, but I seek the fruit which increases to your account. You think when they sent him gifts, they knew what he liked, what he wanted, what would be encouraging to him?
Well, it sounds like it.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
If they had, I don't know, like chocolate turtles or something back then, you think they would have thrown those in? Just knowing that, Paul liked those sort of things, I would say so. And how often we're blessed if we've had a really bad week and a friend shows up with our favorite things. Or we're sick and a friend shows up with something that he or she knows that we need in that sickness. It's like a customized gift. How sweet is that? there's a proactiveness to this. A friend sees your need and proactively shows kindness by delivering to you that which will cheer you up.
So loving. Now, some people will press back and they will hearken. Do you remember the five? Is it the five love languages?
Oh, yeah.
By Gary Chapman, and we actually air his show here on Key Radio. But many of us will say, "Well, you know what? My love language is not like gifts or whatever. Or my friend is a person who loves giving gifts. I'm terrible at it. Therefore, I don't really have that insight to know what." That Paul liked little turtle candies. What would you say to that pushback?
Work on it. I mean, there are always going to be things that you're more naturally inclined to do than other things. Work on the things you're not natural at. I mean, that's what we have to do in marriages, right? I mean, a man can't say to his wife, "Well, I'm just not naturally a communicator, so go talk to somebody else." Like, what? What is that? So, I mean, you want to be a friend to somebody? Work on it. That's not rocket science.
I think that's really missed in culture. Is there's kind of this idea that you only do what comes naturally to you, and when we look at other people and we're like, "Wow, that's a really attentive person," and it's like, well, they're probably attentive because that's something that they lacked and that they're working on. Just having people be like, "Wow, that's a really optimistic person," or oftentimes it'll be someone who's very funny, who's laughing, and just the natural comedian, we would think, and it's like, oh, they were actually struggling with a lot of like inner turmoil and darkness, and it was, they were using humor as a way. Because that's who they wanted to be. Oftentimes we can just assume like, oh, they are that way because they're naturally that way, and we just kind of disregard all effort of growing into who we want to be, putting forth that effort, especially when it's difficult to grow and to become the people that we are supposed to be.
Yeah, can you imagine someone saying, "I don't naturally love like Jesus, so that's just not how I'm wired. So I'm just going to be a Christian who hates people." Okay. Wow.
And I guess the other thing too is, friend, if you were one of those who maybe you struggle in this particular whatever it is to show love toward a person, don't stop trying, right? It's worth the investment, right? If you really truly love your friend, be that friend who just tries again. If you give a gift, for instance, I think of this horrible sweater I gave my poor sister, but I thought it was cool. It was the 80s. It was bright and awful, and she just hated it. And I was so frustrated because it was like, man, I thought it was a good sweater. I was excited about it, and she hated it. And then she ridiculed my sweater. But that doesn't make me stop from trying.
Amen.
So even more so, just do that with all of your relationships.
Yes. Number 6.
Yes, sir.
A friend talks to God about you and asks him for things for you.
Okay.
So you mentioned prayer earlier, and that's what this is. A friend prays for you. You could really sum it up that way. But a friend is talking to God about you and interceding on your behalf. A friend practices intercessory prayer. In Colossians chapter 1, Paul says to this church, "For this reason also, since the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you and to ask that you may be filled with the full knowledge of his will and all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that you may walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, to please him in all respects, bearing fruit in every good work and multiplying in the full knowledge of God." Amazing things to be asking God for. But he says at the beginning there, since we heard of what's going on there, we have not ceased to pray for you and to ask on your behalf for these things. For me, it is such a blessing when I find out that someone's been praying for me for specific things through things. And I've had many people tell me that in my life who say, "I pray for you every day," or "I pray for you every week." It's always a blessing to hear that. And that is true friendship. When that person's not trying to gain anything from me, that person's not telling me, as he's doing it all the time, but just thinking of me and praying for me. And there are times too when someone will say, "Hey, praying for you tonight. What can I be praying about? Send me that text or whatever, or phone call." and it's what a blessing. That's true Christian friendship.
But I think that also, it also assumes that you are a praying person, right? Like so many of us
Yeah.
really get a little upset because our prayer life, or we say our prayer life could be better. We say that, all of us say that. I don't think one person says, "Oh, I pray enough," you
Yeah.
know? But do you pray?
Yeah.
I think that if you were to just kind of put that back, and if you want to be that friend, that means that you need to set aside time in your busy schedule. And I would say it's busy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everything you're busy with is really important,
Worthy.
or when prayer should be the
Yes.
focus. So that's really convicting, Jeremy.
Well, and maybe it would light a spark in us to look at prayer in a new way. Like prayer is a means of being a friend. If you've never thought about prayer that way, maybe that will be helpful in kind of reigniting your prayer life.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. Okay, so a friend prays for their friends. Okay.
Number 7, a friend gives up his Saturday. Ooh.
No.
Now we start touching on sacrifice. I believe at the heart of true friendship has to be sacrifice. And one of the passages that directs me in this thinking, and this is the last passage outside of Proverbs actually, is John 15, when Jesus gives us an amazing definition. He says, "Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends." Notice he said friends there too. But greater love has no one than this, or you could throw in there, greater friendship has no one than this, than to lay down your life for your friends. When a friend voluntarily, even proactively, sacrifices his time or his money on your behalf, do you ever feel more loved? I mean, my goodness. Like if a friend has been saving up money for you to give you a gift and you get that gift, and you're just blown away. You're thinking, you've been thinking about me this whole time? You've been setting aside your own money? If a friend happens to hear that you're working on a big project on a Saturday, and this is this person's only day off, this person shows up and is ready to help. Like you're picking up a 2x4 and all of a sudden it's lighter because he's behind you, carrying the other end. It's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And a friend says, "Think nothing of it. I just love you. I want to help you." That is true friendship. Its sacrifice has to be there.
Okay, so let's press into this a little bit. And I know it's a pride thing, but sometimes, somebody helps you and a person is like, or says, "Hey, can I come over this Saturday and help you?" And the answer is, "Oh, no, I don't want to bother you." Or, "Oh, I couldn't possibly accept this gift." What do you say to that person?
Yeah. That is an interesting thing. It's okay. Let me talk about this. If I was talking to that person directly, if I was not involved, if I wasn't the friend trying to give the gift or whatever, but I was like the preacher that Sunday and whatever, and I'm talking on this and that person's in the congregation, I would want that person to know that whenever you deny someone's giving to you, a free will offering, if you would, you are actually hindering that person's ability to live out his or her faith. I mean, that person may have the gift of giving. That's a spiritual gift in Romans chapter 12. It's listed right there. But you're not going to let that person exercise the spiritual gift given to him or her by the Holy Spirit of God. That's a consideration. There's also the consideration of pride. How much pride is going into this versus like true, honestly, you don't need any help and you really want those resources to go to someone else. That's something to consider in your heart because we often need more help than we admit. It's in the West as Americans here. We think, we're fine. When no, we're not. We are not. We're used to doing things by ourselves, but that's not the way it's supposed to be all the time. And so put those two considerations in your mind. And if you pass both of those hurdles, then respond and say, "Seriously, I'm fine. Thank you so much. Let's figure out another time to do something," something like that. But really consider those things because you might end up saying, that would be great.
I mean, it can seem very like derogatory, like when someone's offering you help, where it's like, "Oh, you think I'm incapable? You think you're better than me, offering me help?" And it's such a weird place to be.
That's pride, isn't it?
Yeah, but it isn't. I know a lot of people feel that way. I've felt that way occasionally. Not usually. That's not usually how I'm wired. But sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, you think you can help me? Oh, yeah. No, I'm good. Thank you." It's like you're always like checking in on me, making sure I'm okay, doing this or that. And it's like, who do you think you are? And, it's like just reaching that point where it's like where I can get past that. And it's like, no, this was a genuine act of love, and not just one act of love, but a continuous flow of love from this person. And I was so ungrateful for them. It's just, man, like how do we reconcile all this? How do we get to a healthy place where it isn't just like this exchange of like friendship deeds or whatever? It feels like we're just like like trading tokens back and forth. It's like, oh, you did this favor for me, now I need to do this for you. You helped me move, and so now I need to
Workspace.
religion. But it does become very like transactional, works based, and this is just kind of like our view on things.
Yep.
Like how do we get to that healthy place of friendship, that healthy perspective?
Repent.
Well, there's that. But I would say, too, from the perspective of the giver, just show up. Don't even ask the person ahead of time, can I help you? Just show up. That's like what we used to do. And if it's a monetary gift or something physical, show up with it. Don't have it like, I don't know, don't ask ahead of time or anything. Just show up with it and have that person look you in the eyes and reject it. Make it that real to them, because that's a real relationship, isn't it? When you can see each other and look each other in the eyes, and to say to that person, you say you've got some cash, you want to give that person and say, I really want you to have this. This is something that we have intentionally done for you, like me and my spouse or whatever the case may be. And we really want you to have this as a gift from the Lord. We don't want anyone else to know about it. We just love you. And if that person still wants to say, no, I refuse, let them say it, but make them say it to your face.
Wow. I also, just a couple of observations. One time, my husband and I, we were also kind of prideful. I'll just say it. We were prideful. And somebody had offered us something, and we were like, no, that's okay. And they said something that just jarred us, and now we use it all the time. Oh, please don't take away my blessing. I'm like, oh my goodness. And so it's kind of a joke in our family, but it really hit us between the eyes, just to your first point about that. The other thing too is, there is nothing that builds a friendship more than when you're working together on one, like, if I have a building project and my friend comes over and says, let me help you, it's not just that they're working on the project with us and helping us out, which is a huge blessing in and of itself. But because then throughout that project, we're talking to each other, we're working together, and of course you're laughing together.
You're having conversations you would never have otherwise.
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, that just builds your friendship. So that's also a blessing for both of us,
Yes.
right? So I guess those are just things that I observe when people are just so generous with their time, especially their time and their
Yes.
talents and their treasure.
Amen. Number
Next.
8.
Yes.
A friend nurses your foot after you shoot it.
You have such a great way of saying things. Do explain.
Okay. So when you shoot yourself in the foot and you find yourself in difficult circumstances like loss of status, loss of prestige, loss of money, loss of whatever, your friend stands with you, even when it's your fault. Again, Proverbs 27. That's like the friends chapter
Apparently,
of
wow.
Proverbs. Proverbs 27:10. It says, and now this is from the perspective of the person who is in those difficult circumstances. Do not forsake your friend or your father's friend, and do not come to your brother's house on the day of your disaster. Better is one who dwells near than a brother far away. So saying, okay, you've got family back in Oklahoma, we'll say, don't, in the day of your calamity, don't go running off to Oklahoma. You got friends here who want to care for you. Embrace those who are near. And not even just your friend, but even your father's friend, the one who is near. And so friends stick with you. And there was a time where I realized the value of this by God's grace, where I was able to be a good friend. Just, this is all him. I have a really, really close friend. I've been friends with him for 2 decades now, just about. And he called me one morning and let me know that he and his wife were getting a divorce. Was not expecting that at all. Totally blindsided by it. And he started telling me the details, and I was asking him, how he was processing all this. Because, you don't just wake up one day and decide that. There had been a lead up on his end that I hadn't known about, so I was getting caught up on that and trying to just, care for him, as, show him love. And later that day, he called back, because I was one of the first people he told. And later that day, he called back, and he thanked me for not judging him.
Huh.
That wasn't even in my mind in that initial phone call. I just love him. He's like, he's a brother. He sticks closer than a brother. And that impacted him. And there were things that he had done that were his fault. There were things that his ex-wife had done that were her fault. But kind of like a shooting himself in the foot kind of feeling, I'm sure. And all I wanted to do was care for his foot.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't really care how the bullet got there now. Let's care.
This reminds me, though, of our cancel culture, right? Like if somebody does something and shoots their own foot, and maybe the the ramifications of this particular deed are so bad that everybody's just fleeing, trying to get away from what. This is an interesting thing because this is a form of sacrifice as a friend, right? Like let's say your friend gets caught embezzling, right? You can still be a friend and press into that person and to be there for them and not say, I condone what they did.
Correct.
And that's a hard thing for today's society because we love to run away. As soon as the leper comes, we're like, God, it's not on me, right?
You're making a great point. Yep. It comes back again to pride, looking out for ourselves, not, even going back to, we don't want to hurt that person's feelings because that person might get upset if I confront this person and that'll come back on me and I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
So that's why we don't go there. Same thing here where I don't want to be that person's friend because everybody in the community knows what he did. I don't want to be his friend because then I'm guilty by association. I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
That is not counting others as more important than yourself. That is actually having a very shallow worldly friendship with that person.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number 9.
Yes.
A friend sticks around even after you gossip about him. So not just when a person embezzles or something and has some kind of sin that's out there, but even when you sin against a person and that person's still willing to stick with you and love you and be your friend, that is true friendship. Proverbs 17:17 starts off by saying, a friend loves at all times.
Wow.
Right? Just marinate on that one for a while,
Yeah.
right? Even when you get mad and blow up wrongly at the person, even when you, say things that now you would take back, but you couldn't, the words have left your mouth. And even when you've, done this thing to this person, you told a lie and you said you were busy that day, but you really weren't. You just didn't want to be with that person. When that person still loves you, that person is a true friend because true friendship has with it unconditional love.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Let's keep moving.
Okay, last one.
Yes.
And dare I say, most important one. A friend reminds you about Jesus, the ultimate friend. Jesus is the ultimate friend. When we think through all these things that I've been listing, Jesus exceeds all of them, doesn't he? And again, Proverbs 27, verse 17, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And the way that in our friendships we sharpen one another, that we encourage one another, we build one another up, is through Jesus. We point each other to Jesus, who's the ultimate friend, the friend of sinners, the one who did lay down his life for his friends, the one who loved his enemies, the one who went beyond the requirements of the law and gave us the gospel. Jesus Christ is the ultimate friend, and it's in him we find true grace, we find true mercy, we find true hope, and a true friend is going to remind you of all of those things in the gospel, which is that though we are helpless sinners who willfully rebelled against our Creator, that God so loved us that he sent his only Son to die on the cross in our place for our sins, rising again the third day, defeating death, proving his authority over the grave, that we would be made right with God, reconciled to God, that God would be our friend and Father forever and ever through faith alone in what Jesus has done.
Wow.
A true friend is going to point you back to Jesus.
It would be a really neat exercise to take this list, especially the first 9, and then go into the Gospels and see how Jesus met and exceeded and demonstrated as an example for us, in a way, what a true friend is. I mean, even with that last one about a friend who would still love you when you gossip. I think about when Peter
Yes.
was betrayed him, right? And even Judas, for that matter, right? The Lord was so gracious and loving, dying for our sins, even though we rebel against him. Just tremendous. I guess in the last minutes here, Jeremy, I will just like to ask you to encourage us. I mean, we can't control what our friends do, right? Or who, but we can speak into our own lives and say, if I don't have friends like that or people in my life like that, I just would submit that maybe we need to start being the friend. Would you add to that? Expand on that maybe?
Yeah, well, and it depends on how hard the person has tried for friendship too, because we can often fall into the mindset of expecting to be served.
Yeah.
Mark 10:45, it says, "The Son of Man," this is Jesus speaking, "that the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." If there was anybody who ever walked the face of the earth who deserved to receive service and never have to serve anyone else, it was Jesus, the only one. And yet he did the opposite. He did not come to be served, but to serve. So as a Christian, we have to have that mindset and really press into that mindset. It is, I don't think we even realize how easily we fall back to, why didn't that person do this for me? I mean, our minds just go there automatically. Like
Right.
it's, part of the nature that's still like hanging around a little bit, that sin that lingers. We have to continually focus on Jesus and how he lived out his life, being a friend, and seek to imitate Jesus. If we are believers in him, we must seek to imitate him. So yes, what you said is right, that we should seek to be that friend if we don't have friends like that, and God takes care of the rest.
Are we supposed to be friends to all the thousands of people that we have on our Facebook?
You can't. It's not even a possibility.
So what's reasonable?
So what's reasonable is usually through your local church, but not always, right? You'll find connection with people locally who you can actually spend time with as friends. But there are, of course, modern technology. We can meet with people digitally, all kinds of ways, which is fine too. But you find a few people and you accumulate them too over the course of your life who you are a true friend to. And you still love your neighbors. The rest are neighbors.
Yeah.
And you love them. When God gives you opportunities to serve them, you seek to serve them. But with friends, now there's this proactive type of relationship with them. It's a different level.
But ultimately, what we are supposed to do is to love our neighbors, and actually, the Christian's life is to be marked with loving people.
That's correct.
Let's talk about Orchard
Even
Hills Bible Church.
our enemies.
And why'd you point to me?
No.
So, Orchard Hills Bible Church, how we connect.
Yep. So we meet on Sundays and Wednesdays and days in between. You can find about all of that on our website, orchardhillsbiblechurch.com.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Pastor Jeremy Howard. And thank you, dear friend. Go out there, be a friend, and love others.